Welcome to Salt Air. Now, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but I'm really excited that today we've got Jake Albretsen here from iTransact, one of the many Salt users out there. And we're going to have him on today and just ask him questions about how he uses Salt, when he started using Salt, and why he generally thinks it's good. I mean, right? It's good, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, Jake, so where do you work?
I work at iTransact. It's located in Farmington, Utah. And it is a merchant account. We do merchant accounts, and we also have a payment gateway, which we sell people to use. I put it. People use, and they pay us money to do that. And we maintain that.
Fantastic.
All right.
So what do you do for iTransact?
I am, titles are funny, but I'm more or less the system administrator for the systems that run this whole infrastructure we have. That does all these, maintains merchant accounts and the payment gateways and all the stuff that comes with that. So we use Linux, of course. Our flavor is CentOS currently, and we have give or take 50 to 60 machines, just depending upon what we're working on at the time, both virtualized and just a flat-out machine.
So some virtual machines, some bare metal.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a decent sized deployment, not a massive
not huge,
one.
yeah, not a massive one, but
Okay.
one that keeps me busy.
So when did you start using Salt at iTransact?
Well, when I was first hired, they looked at me because before it was one of those situations where developers were just maintaining things in between developing, as often happens. But they finally said, "All right, we're getting a sysadmin." They looked at me and they gave me a list of things to do. One of which was get all these servers deployed, make some sort of nice way to do this. And they suggested Puppet or Chef or whatever at the time.
Well, this is a while ago.
This was December 2010, I think. Was it 2013 now? I don't know.
Yeah,
two and a half years ago.
That was pre-Salt anyway.
Yes, it was. So they suggested Puppet. I wanted to mess with Puppet for a long time at that point. I wanted to mess with ways to make my life easier in terms of deploying servers and keeping them consistent, and when changes need to be made, not having to log into each one individually or have some sort of scripts that are customized. I had two jobs previously that tinkered with the idea, but it never came to fruition for various reasons. And so when I got this job, it was basically like, instead of giant meetings and everything to decide very small things, it was, Jake, make it work, thanks. And so I was free to explore options and learn what was possible to make this happen. Before, it was, as many places probably have, it's like a wiki page or a doc that says, all right, you have a new machine, install it. Okay, now edit this PAM file and edit this file and that file. Because one of the things we need to do at iTransact, since we're doing credit cards, is PCI. And it's a lot easier to be able to do that. If I have to make a change for PCI, I'd do it across the entire system versus one machine at a time. And so when machines were installed, they had a list of things to do. Make these users, do this, do that. And it was this big, long wiki page. And it worked. I mean, there was all there, but and then there were some attempts at making like a script or some tarball that you go and upload to a server and run a script and it does it all for you. But after that, if you need to go make a change to DNS or mail relays or something, it was a pain. And there was no consistency between UUIDs and stuff like that. So they got me in there and said, make this awesome. And PCI and all that. And so I started looking at Puppet, and I did deploy Puppet for a while, and it was working. There was some limitations that I was kind of bugged me or whatever, but it was working, and a lot of the problems we had, well, at least I had, that I wanted to solve were solved.
So I mean, in all reality, Puppet's fantastic software. What really convinced you to switch over to Salt?
Well, I had a friend of mine. Well, a friend of mine actually helped me learn Puppet, because I was looking at the docs and somewhat confused. And I went over to his house, and he was like, all right, so here's how this works. I was kind of confused with directory structure and where should I put this file and how is it referenced, and there were some things that were great on there and on the docs, and some things were a bit confusing. But over time, you kind of learn how to look through that. But my friend here brought it with me, gave me a book, and said, "Here, you can keep this because I'm using Salt now at work, but I'm going to start using this Salt thing and looking into that." And I'm like, "That's nice. Okay, tell me more about Puppet." So, and he helped me out. And he got me off the ground, and I had some pretty good setup there with Puppet. And then, this friend of mine, I have lunch with him occasionally or whatever. And, months or whatever it was down the road, he said, "Hey, so this Salt thing I told you about last time when we were talking about Puppet, you should really try it out." And I don't forget, it was 1 or 2 lunches. And I said, "Fine, I'll look at it." So I started looking at what Puppet could do and configuring and that. I looked at it for about a day. And I looked at the admin or the developers and said, "We're switching to Salt," just because of how much easier it was. I mean, perhaps there was something there since I've done Puppet before that helped that. I didn't have the learning curve I had, but I found that like YAML and everything like that was just really easy just to describe what was going on in the config files. And already knowing, I'm not an expert at Python, but knowing what Python is like and have programmed it before, that translated well into how I think. I said, this is great. And so I started playing with it. The developers were like, well, I don't know. We've already done Puppet now. And I said, no, we're going to Salt. And then as I kept playing with, this is before the test equals true option that you added.
When was this? We're going deep into the medieval days of Salt.
Yes, but it was prior to the test equals true option, and that was one of the things I wanted with Puppet. Is like, all right, I'm going to do this, and staging is one thing, and I can test things, and whoops, fix it. All right, now it's working. But production is something else. Sometimes there's things there. In a perfect world, it's exactly the same, right? But rarely does that happen, and so. When you guys introduced, I think it was just you at the time still when that was introduced.
Oh yeah, we're looking at so when test equals true was introduced, I believe it was in February or March of 2012.
0.09 or something.
Yeah, that was like 0.9 point. I'm going to say 0.9.3. I'm sure that when we put this on the internet, somebody's going to look through and embarrass me that I don't remember my own releases.
In the comments.
Yeah. I was at 0.9.2, you clot.
But when that came out, I'm like, before I was sold, but now I was really sold because now I could, all right, if I can add this and see, whoops, I'm glad I didn't run the actual command that did this. I mean, with experience, that happens less and less, but when you're still new, that helps.
So you're using Salt to deploy servers that need to be secure, servers that are managing PCI compliance.
Right.
So what are some of the things that you use Salt for? Are there any specifics that you can highlight with respect to your deployment? Are you using remote execution at all in Salt?
A little bit. We're doing remote execution a little bit. Mostly me, just so I can, if I need to run a command across all systems, I can do it. I wrote a custom, what is it called, a custom runner to do some passwords, which I've been promising you a generic version that everyone can use for a long time.
You did mention that online a little while ago.
And yes, and I keep meaning to get to the generic version, but haven't. So now someone's going to write it for me, beat me to the punch, but whatever.
I wish the community was always that responsive. Oftentimes they are, but not always.
But that was because with PCI, it's like you need to change your password. I think it's every 90 days. And I actually have the systems I've configured actually a little bit above and beyond. Well, actually, some of them are a lot above and beyond the PCI. PCI requires whatever number of character passwords. I have just key-only access with a passphrase required for the SSH key for users. But the password still needs to be there for sudo. Some of the specifics, what I put together is I envisioned something like this 2 jobs ago.
Okay.
I worked at a LXCD company, and we had to provision all of the time. Just we were provisioning servers and provisioning servers. Just this is the nature of the company. And I actually proposed, why don't we use, Kickstart and Cobbler and some Puppet, put this all together and make our lives a lot easier. And one of the guys loved it. One of the higher guys loved it. But me and the other sysadmin were constantly provisioning servers using our steps that we had currently. And it never evolved into anything because I was like, I would love to work on this and make it work, but these guys over here want to make their money and I need to provision servers to do that. And the job after that was lots of red tape to move anything going along. Lots of generals and stuff have to sign off on changes, and it was just not happening. So when I got to iTransact, I'm like, I can build this now. Finally, I can take this idea where I can take a machine and use Red Hat's Kickstart, or whoever, Red Hat, yeah, Kickstart, CentOS, to go and build a bare bones machine. Because as you and I know, you want to not have anything exposed that doesn't need to be exposed, right? And so Kickstart, I can say, this is the bare bones machine. I've got the operating system and SSH, so I get into it, and the firewall going, and okay, we'll start from there. And so that was my approach when making PCI servers. Is I don't want GUIs and Firefox installed on these machines that just have to relay mail or be DNS or run our apps to do transactions. That's ridiculous. So I started with that, and with Kickstart I was able to do some scripting to then, at the time, do Puppet, and then I switched it to be able to install Salt from Apple. And then from there I built, I called it Core. I just called it, a Core module, and then inside there I had PAN, I had IP tables, and whatever else I needed. I used the CIS security guidelines, which are good, but read them because some of the suggestions don't work in Linux. You have to actually whoever wrote them did Unix or something. The wrong commands were there, but it's good stuff. And so we have to pick a security policy. And so I picked CIS because that's what I used in a previous job. I was familiar with it. And I know passwords and firewall and users and this and that and the other to secure these things up. And there's specific ones for like Apache and Bind and stuff like that. And I just started building these core things to these modules, Salt modules too. I know modules, but
formulas.
Formulas, thank you.
So, yeah, sorry, we kind of changed the name of that like a year ago.
And me
you've been around for a while.
And me being a physicist, formula means something else. So I get terminology mixed up. But yeah, the SLS files that go,
you can always call them that.
Of YAML that go and give instructions on here's what you need to do. And I built that on top, with the CIS guidelines in mind and following that for our security. Okay? And it worked. So basically, when we got a new machine, I said, "Hi, you're a new machine. You're whatever your name is." I put it and then basically all of them have these core modules set in them. And so then I would just go on, and I haven't done anything fancy like cloud. There's only 50-ish machines in our system, so I handle this part on my own. I approve the key in Salt, and I say go, and I have a server that has CIS and PCI in mind. Fairly quickly. When the users, the developers are like, oh, I have to make my user on this machine still. It just does it all. So then basically I can say, there's your machine that you requested for X app. Do it. Go. It's yours now. Go and do what you do. We have a pretty good relationship, but there's only a few of us, so there's none of this. Only the admins can do this, and only the devs can do that, and they shall not meet or cross. And we have a good relationship, so if there's an issue, some of them we communicate well and all that. But one really good example is we have a server that has Perl, and when you mess with CPAN and stuff like that, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and it can be some, it could possibly, it's meant to make things easy. But sometimes, right? So, and there was a whole wiki article that someone had written previously on how to get these machines going, these Perl apps that we have. And we had a VM, I think it was running VMware Server 2. I know it wasn't my choice, but it was.
VMware makes good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's Server 2. I mean, their other stuff is really good, but this was kind of. But so it is little tiny underpowered machine that was running our apps, and like it was underpowered to the point where at 4:02 or whatever it is when the cron runs and starts doing stuff. Stuff started slowing down. We started getting pages because Nagios couldn't connect and say, "Hey, are you alive?" or whatever. It was pretty underpowered, and so I said to the devs, "I'm like, we really need to replace these with something else, either a full machine or another VM that's properly powered." And the guy's like, these Perl boxes take like 4 days to build, and I'm like, what? 4 days? And he's like, 4 days to build these things because we have to get all Perl stuff on there. And we have to do this, and we forget where the symlinks need to go because of our weird way of making the first time. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna fix this. So first thing I had to do was figure out the Perl stuff and the cpan and making everything happy. Some of them are at Apple, some of them aren't. So someone on I think the Perl Linux users group list tipped me off on how to make RPMs of these from cpan of specific modules. And so I said, what do we need? And they're like, I don't know, whatever's on the other boxes. So it took a bit of research to get this done. So I built these RPMs, put it in a repo, added to my Salt, so we had this custom repo. And I said, okay, what's next? And so basically over time we sat and okay, there's another cpan RPM we have to build. Build that, add it there, add it to the Salt SOS file. So it knows to install that for a Perl server. And it's like, all right, what's next? Okay, well, we need these symlinks here. I need permissions to this directory here. I know it's weird, but it's how the app runs. And so I just started adding those lines to that SLS file, the formula, for these boxes. And it basically came down to a box that took 4 days to configure. I was able to hand them with 90% of what they needed to do, and all the little, you describe it somewhat as bailing wire sometimes. But some of the things aren't quite standard, but it works. I could hand it to them and said, here you go, and all that stuff was done. And yeah, so 4 days to something, I have to put in the DNS and everything. That takes a bit of time, but once that's done, I just hit the go button, kickstart, and then do the Salt call. All right, here's your Perl server. Have fun. And so that's one of the biggest things. He was happy with that. He's like, no, now it no longer takes days to build these things.
And it sounds like you took an extremely responsible approach, since you can install from cpan directly inside.
Yes, well, that's what I tried to do at first. Is I'm like, oh, let's do cpan, but then there's, this version has to be bigger than this version, and this version.
Well, it was probably before you got a lot of that extra cpan support that's in there now.
Is it in there now? So
it's all in there now.
Okay, but it was. So you can, I don't know. Anyway.
RPMs are a great way to I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I'd rather use RPMs for everything that's running, because the package manager gives you a lot more control over the underlying system.
That was my thinking as well.
But it's worth mentioning.
If they've made improvements, great. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Oh yeah. We're always trying to put stuff in.
But it was great now. So as they kind of said, we also need this module. I could either add it through Apple or roll an RPM, and it was. They're very thrilled with the fact that now these boxes that they run their apps, that all the little details that needed to go into them took so long to do is now actually can be done, and is also in a sense recorded.
Yep.
Excuse me. In the formula, that so if we have to say, what do we have to do for this sort of box, we can just look at the formula and see what we have to do. So that was a pretty big achievement. So now I've handed him these Perl app boxes. It used to, we can't do that, we need to avoid it. So now I need another one over in staging. There you go, no problem. So it's been nice.
Well, no, that's good. That's really the goal, is to make people's lives easier, make everything more doable. And again, thanks for sticking with Salt for so long, and the fact that it's great to talk to people who've been using it for over a year, because Salt is still pretty darn young, and it's especially nice to hear about using Salt to enhance security.
Mm.
I mean, one of the things that in previous lives, when when I was a systems engineer, I would always try and emphasize that we have to have security, but implement it in such a way that it doesn't create a mess for everyone else's lives.
Yes, and I've experienced that as well.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, we have so much security on this thing now, the box is just basically there, and usability, it might, yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that we've been able to help streamline the process of making things more
absolutely,
secure.
and it's great because I streamlined this and I documented it all because we have to, So now instead of like type this command, I just say this is done with salt in my docs. And when we were audited at iTransact, we have an audit once a year to make sure we're PCI compliant.
Yep, that's how it goes.
The auditor was actually fairly complimentary. He's like, oh, well, this stuff is very nice and in order. And I'm like, yes, goal achieved. He just comes in, I hand him everything he wants to do. He asks questions, and then it was great because it was basically salt. I have to attribute a lot of that to salt because it made it real easy to just, if we have a security policy, here it is. It's implemented by salt. Any questions? And then on everything else they ask, but yeah, it's great.
No, that's good to hear. And yeah, thanks for coming
Oh,
by.
Sure, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're not going to have the luxury of always having someone local to interview, so it makes it a little easier.
I was more than happy to drive.
Although I think that some of our technical issues that we've had throughout this might shine through, but this is the first one of these that we've done. So
I just want to put in a plug, though.
Plug away.
If you need a merchant account. No, if you need a merchant account, you can know that iTransact uses salt. If you want to support salt, you need a merchant account. Just find me online. Just search for me. I'm out there.
Well, yeah, no, it's we definitely want to be partners with people who are helping endorse us. So that's fantastic to hear.
Great.
All right. So that's it for this episode of Salt Air. Again, thanks to Jake for coming by and talking about some of his experiences. He's one of the longest term salt users that we've got today, since he goes back deep into 2012.
Way back then.
Yep, salt is young. We were only starting to be in production systems around early 2012. But okay, thanks.
You bet.